Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Average Movie Review Podcast. Today, I thought we could just talk about something that crossed my mind last night. I was watching The Winter Soldier, which is probably the best movie in the entire MCU. You can fight me on that, but literally the best movie, and I mean like better than Endgame, Infinity War, pretty much any other MCU film you can think of. Winter Soldier was at its time, I don't think it was as appreciated as much as it's appreciated now. But when you look back at it, it's like, wow, this was a hell of a film. But I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here to talk about is I was sitting and watching, and I was like remembering the time when this movie came out, and I was like, we lived in a moment or a timeline where whatever happened in the movie, we could see the repercussions take place in what is possibly the most hated show that the MCU has ever made, and the most loved show at the same time, and the most confusing thing that they've ever done in their entire lifetime up until now, which is obviously, if you haven't figured it out, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was a point where whatever was happening in these films, we would get to experience them in the show and see the real life repercussions of those actions. I remember when Thor: The Dark World came out, they were investigating. They went to London. Now, they never got to meet Thor, but they went to London after or as the situation was unfolding. When what happened in Winter Soldier, when everything pretty much hit the fan and like everyone was exposed, Hydra was exposed, that was happening all at the same time as Winter Soldier. Again, it was just crazy to see that after you come home from the movie, the following week, there was something that was going to continue from the movie. And it kept everything so connected. Um, I don't know why they stopped that. I have no idea. I look back in my mind and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, why did Marvel disassociate itself from this show? And why didn't it let it continue going on? You could have let it happen until Endgame, which I think they technically did. I can't remember when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ended, but I think it did go up until Endgame, but things were still a little bit confusing. Like, it still wasn't affecting what was happening anymore, like in their timeline, and there was like different. It was just too much. But regardless, they, for some reason, didn't do that, and I feel like it was such a missed opportunity because that was so cool, right? Like, we get to see these MCU shows now where they're like connecting it from like what's happening there, what's happening here, and all of that stuff, but it's not as, I would say, as not fun, but not as connected. You're not really invested. Kevin Feige said that, like, you don't. We're gonna stop doing the thing where you gotta watch something before you watch a movie. Like, there's nothing. There's no more going to be that type of continuity. It's too much homework. To a certain degree, I agree, but to a certain degree, I also disagree. I feel like that's how you build a shared universe. That's how you continue upon something that's amazing. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. proved that it worked. I remember when, I guess, Winter Soldier being the most impactful film in that phase and that time, and it was the end of season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how crazy it was to watch Winter Soldier come home that same day, or I can't remember when they would release the episodes. I think it was every Thursday night or maybe every Friday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever. You would see the repercussions of what was happening, and you would know that it's all happening all at the same time, and you're shitting bricks. And then, like, seeing Nick Fury come on the show for that one episode, brother, like, what? Or even right before Age of Ultron, we got to see the helicarrier that was survived, and that same helicarrier was used in Age of Ultron. You know what I mean? In one of the episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So why did they do that? I honestly, I have no idea, and I wish that they didn't, because that was such a cool thing for a fan to watch. And I feel like that's kind of where you've also lost a little bit of the spark too, right? With the ongoing troubles of the multiverse saga, which should be rectified hopefully with Fantastic Four coming out this week, finally leading into something bigger, and then Avengers Doomsday and whatnot. And then we also have Spider-Man Brand New Day, which has apparently nothing to do with Doomsday, but will also connect to Doomsday somehow. Anyway, regardless, they're kind of coming back on track. And then Kevin Feige just releasing a bunch of stuff over the weekend, saying that, he's going to focus more on quality over quantity. He wants to make sure everything is more, they're connected. And then also he wants to go, I think what he's trying to do is like, he wants to go back to old school Marvel, and he wants to, get the hype back and everything. And I appreciate all of that. And this is what they should have been doing pretty much years ago, but they didn't for whatever reason, or when Multiverse Saga ended. And then, I'm like, okay, this is great, but let's just see what you guys can really do. But I don't know, I just feel so sad when I think about it that you had a great show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. I would say maybe the last one or two seasons is like skippable or is not that great. In my opinion, like it's okay to watch, but it doesn't have that impact. But there are some seasons. Season one is absolutely phenomenal. Season two is really good. Season three is freaking amazing as well. Season four, even better. I think there's only 7 seasons or 8 seasons. So like after that, it kind of slows down, and then there's like I think season six is good, and then it ends and all of that. And Phil Coulson is a legend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to not bring him back in any other Marvel film since I think the last time we see him is in the Avengers, and I don't think he comes back for any single Marvel film after that. Um, is a crime on itself. And then I remember the controversy of when the show was released, and then how they kept denying that it's not part of the MCU, or they kept trying to like disassociate it from the MCU, and I don't understand why they were doing that. It made no sense. They gave it no recognition, even though the show numbers were doing really well, and people were really excited about the show, and people want this show back. Not only that, they want characters from that show to be in the MCU. We want Daisy, we want Phil Coulson back, we want I can't remember her name, but I remember her call name, which was the Calvary. Like, we want these characters, we want Fitz, we want all these guys back, but unfortunately, for some reason, they're just not a priority, and it's just sad. I don't know what to tell you. It's just a missed opportunity, and I feel really, I find it very frustrating that they did something like that. Very stupid on their part. But yeah, I think that was pretty much my rant. And then to just reiterate the stuff that like Kevin Feige was saying in the report that came out the other day, he's excited. He's finally back on board. I think he's putting a lot more focus on into what he's doing and everything. And then he made a comment about Kang, how he didn't think Kang was a good enough villain to be an Avengers villain, and I was like, no, that's stupid. He was a pretty good villain. Um, Putting aside Jonathan Majors issues and whatnot, he did deliver a great performance in terms of Kang, and he was menacing. It's just your story sucked. I don't know why you even approved it, and you made Ant-Man, which could have been a really serious, dark film, into not dark, but like a good film, into a very shitty, cringy comic film, right? The ending of that fight scene where Ant-Man's willing to sacrifice himself was really good. A lot of people in the comments were like, "Yeah, well, that's what's gonna happen if you're gonna let Ant-Man beat, Kang." He didn't beat Kang. He technically didn't beat Kang. If you remember, if you watch the movie, at the end of the film, Ant-Man goes back in his head, and he's just like, holy crap, like, did I kill him or did I not kill him? What if he didn't die? I just maybe sent him into a smaller universe. Like, there's so many opportunities. He didn't actually beat him. He just outwitted him. That's about it. He didn't actually kill him or end him or finish him. He just outwitted him temporarily. And that was all it was. So again, I don't agree with everything that came out from those reports, but it is what it is. I'm excited. I'm hoping that they fix up and they really do well in the next upcoming films. Fantastic Four releases this week. And yeah, let me know what you guys think too. Like, did you guys like um Was the show called? Agents of Shield. Was it something that you guys enjoyed watching? Do you think it should come back? Do you think that they should put a little bit more emphasis on it, or like give it its flowers? Like, I'd love to hear from you guys. So let me know and have a wonderful day, guys. Talk to you soon.